In March of 2022, a 3-year-old boy in Utrecht, Netherlands, picks up a crayon and begins to draw. His name is Jonas Meyer. He is the youngest child of Peter and Anke Meyer, a couple who lives in a modest apartment near the Utrecht Canal. Peter drives a delivery truck for a logistics company. Anke works part-time at a local bakery. They are ordinary people living ordinary lives. They have no interest in ancient history. They have never visited Egypt. They do not own books about archaeology or mythology. Their home contains no images of hieroglyphs, no documentaries about pharaohs, no posters of pyramids. Jonas has never been exposed to anything related to ancient Egypt. He is 3 years old. He still struggles to form complete sentences. He still wears diapers at night. He cannot tie his own shoes. But the symbol he draws is not the work of a 3-year-old child. The lines are precise. The curves are exact. The proportions are mathematically consistent. Jonas draws the same symbol over and over again, dozens of times each day, on every piece of paper he can find. When the paper runs out, he draws on napkins, on the margins of his mother's shopping lists, on the back of his father's receipts, on the condensation of windows, on the dust that settles on furniture. Always the same symbol. Always with the same impossible precision. Anke notices first. She watches her son draw one afternoon, his small hand moving with a steadiness that seems wrong for a child his age. There is no hesitation, no correction, no starting over. Jonas draws as if he is copying something he can see clearly in his mind, something he has seen 1,000 times before, something as familiar to him as his own reflection. She tries to copy the symbol herself that evening, after Jonas has gone to bed. She studies one of his drawings carefully, then attempts to reproduce it on a fresh sheet of paper. Her version is clumsy. The proportions are wrong. The curves do not flow correctly. When Jonas sees her attempt the next morning, he looks at it with an expression that Anke will later describe as ancient. Sad and ancient, and far too knowing for a boy who has only been alive for 3.5 years. He takes the paper gently from her hands. He looks at it for a long moment. Then he tears it in half and walks away. Peter dismisses his wife's concerns at first. "Children draw strange things," he says. "It means nothing?" But he cannot explain why Jonas draws with such precision. He cannot explain why the symbol is always identical, down to the smallest detail. He cannot explain why his son, who cannot yet write his own name, produces drawings that look like the work of a trained architect. The grandmother visits in April. Her name is Elizabeth, and she is a devout woman who attends church every Sunday in Amersfoort. When she sees the drawings spread across the kitchen table, her face goes pale. She makes the sign of the cross. She whispers something about the devil. She urges Anke to take Jonas to a priest, to have him blessed, to drive out whatever has taken hold of her grandson. Anke refuses, but the seed of fear has been planted. That night, unable to sleep, she opens her laptop and begins to search. She types ancient symbols into Google. She types Egyptian hieroglyphs. She types mysterious alphabets and lost languages and secret scripts. She scrolls through hundreds of images. None of them match. The symbol that Jonas draws does not appear anywhere on the internet. She tries archaeological databases, museum collections, academic papers. Nothing. The symbol does not exist in any catalogued system. It is not Sumerian. It is not Babylonian. It is not Greek or Roman or Mayan or Chinese. It belongs to no known civilization. It corresponds to no recorded language. Desperate for answers, Anki posts a photograph of the symbol on an online forum dedicated to historical mysteries. Her message is simple. Does anyone recognize this symbol? My 3-year-old son draws it obsessively. I cannot find it anywhere. The response comes 48 hours later, and nothing will ever be the same. A man named Henrik Lindqvist sends a private message. He identifies himself as an independent researcher specializing in uncatalogued Egyptian inscriptions. He has spent 15 years studying symbols and texts that mainstream archaeology ignores or dismisses. He asks if he can arrange a video call. His tone is urgent, almost desperate. Anki agrees. When the call connects, she sees a man in his 50s with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He is sitting in what appears to be a cluttered office, filled with books and papers and photographs. His hands are trembling. His face is pale. "Where did your son see this symbol?" he asks. "Nowhere," Anka replies. "He just started drawing it one day." Lindqvist is silent for a long moment. Then he holds up a photograph to the camera. The image shows a wall covered in ancient markings. In the center, clearly visible, is a symbol. The same symbol, identical to what Jonas draws. This photograph, Lindqvist says slowly, was taken in 2019 in a sealed chamber near Abydos, Egypt. The chamber had been untouched for over 3,000 years. When archaeologists opened it, they found this inscription on the wall. A symbol unlike any other in Egyptian writing. Unique, unprecedented. The discovery was never published. The information was sealed. The photographs exist only in the private archives of one university and in the memories of the 6 people who were present at the excavation. I was one of those 6 people. Anki feels the room spin around her. "Your son," Lindqvist continues, his voice barely above a whisper, "is drawing a symbol that no living person outside of that excavation team has ever seen. A symbol that exists only in a sealed tomb in Egypt, and in the archives of researchers who have never shared it with anyone. If you are fascinated by mysteries like this, consider subscribing to this channel. We explore the unexplained connections between ancient civilizations and modern phenomena. Click the subscribe button and join us on this journey into the unknown." Lindqvist travels to Utrecht 2 weeks later. He brings copies of the excavation photographs, documents he is not supposed to possess, evidence that could end his career if the wrong people found out. But he no longer cares about his career. He needs to understand how a 3-year-old Dutch boy knows something that only 6 people in the world should know. The meeting takes place in the Meyer family's apartment. Jonas sits on the living room floor, drawing his symbol on a sheet of paper. Lindqvist watches him in silence, his face a mask of controlled shock. The boy's hand moves with mechanical precision. There is no hesitation, no uncertainty. He draws as if he is transcribing something he can see perfectly in his mind. Lindqvist kneels beside Jonas and shows him one of the photographs from the excavation. The image displays the chamber wall with the symbol clearly visible. Jonas glances at it briefly, then returns to his own drawing. "Same," he says simply. "Same name." Lindqvist's breath catches. "Name? Whose name?" Jonas does not look up. His crayon continues to move across the paper. "Him," he says. "The green man. The first one. The one who came from up there." He points toward the ceiling, toward the sky beyond. In the weeks that follow, Lindqvist returns to Utrecht multiple times. He conducts careful, patient interviews with Jonas, always in the presence of his parents. The boy speaks in fragments, struggling to express concepts that seem too large for his limited vocabulary. But what he describes is consistent, detailed, and impossible for a 3-year-old to invent. Jonas speaks of a man who was not like other men. His skin had a greenish glow, like light filtering through leaves in a forest. His head was elongated, stretching backward in a shape that human skulls do not possess. His eyes were large and dark and deep, and when he looked at you, he saw everything, not just your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, your secrets. Nothing could be hidden from his gaze. He came from above, Jonas says repeatedly, pointing at the sky. With others, many others. They came to teach. Lindqvist recognizes the description. It matches the depictions of Osiris found in ancient texts that most academics dismiss as purely symbolic. The green skin representing resurrection and fertility according to conventional interpretation. The tall crown that scholars call a ceremonial headdress, but that others suggest represents a naturally elongated skull. The all-seeing eyes that judge the souls of the dead. But Jonas adds details that go beyond any conventional depiction. He describes the green man's hands, which had longer fingers than human hands, fingers that could manipulate objects with impossible precision. He describes the green man's voice, which did not come from his mouth, but seemed to resonate directly inside your head. He describes the green man's movements, which were slow and deliberate, as if he existed in a different relationship with time itself. These details do not appear in mainstream Egyptology. They do not appear in textbooks or museum displays, but they do appear in the accounts of those who study the unexplained aspects of ancient Egypt. They appear in the research of those who believe that the gods of Egypt were not myths, but memories of actual beings who walk the earth in a forgotten age. Robert Bauval, in his groundbreaking work, The Orion Mystery, proposed that the pyramids of Giza were aligned to mirror the 3 stars of Orion's belt. This constellation was sacred to the ancient Egyptians because they believed it was the celestial home of Osiris. The pyramid texts, the oldest religious writings in human history, describe Osiris not as a god born on earth, but as a being who descended from the sky. He was different in form from the sons of men. The texts state, "He came from the stars, and to the stars he shall return." Jonas does not know the word Osiris. He has never heard that name. But he draws the symbol that was found in a sealed chamber in Abydos, a symbol that researchers believe represents the true name of that being. Not the name humans gave him later, the name he brought with him from the stars. One evening, Lindqvist asks Jonas directly, "The green man, what was his name?" Jonas looks up. His eyes, for a moment, seem far older than 3 years. He does not say a word. He simply points at the symbol he has just drawn. "This," he says, "this is his name, his real name, the one nobody knows." The implications are staggering. If Jonas is correct, the symbol is not merely a decorative element or a religious icon. It is the actual name, the true identifier of a being who came to Earth thousands of years ago. A being who taught humanity, who shaped civilization, who became the god Osiris in human memory. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, one of the most important funerary texts of the ancient world, describes Osiris as the one who came from the stars and who will return when the cycle is complete. The Turin King List, a fragmentary papyrus that catalogues the rulers of Egypt, includes a section listing gods who reigned for thousands of years before the human pharaohs. Mainstream academics dismiss this as mythology, but the list names these divine rulers with specific reign lengths. Osiris is among them. Manetho an Egyptian priest who wrote a comprehensive history of his civilization in Greek during the 3rd century before the Common Era, also references these pre-dynastic divine rulers. His work, known as the Egyptiaca, describes beings who descended from the heavens and established the foundations of Egyptian civilization. They taught writing. They taught mathematics. They taught astronomy. They built monuments that would endure for millennia. And then, when their work was done, they departed. Have you ever experienced something that felt like a memory from another time? A place you have never visited that somehow feels familiar? A skill you possess that you never learned? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be more connected to the ancient past than you realize. Jonas continues to reveal fragments of information over the following months. He describes the Green Man as the leader of a group of beings who were not human. They had elongated skulls, all of them. Their eyes could see through walls, through flesh, through lies. They communicated not just with words, but with thoughts. They could place images directly into your mind. They could show you things that had happened long ago, or things that had not yet occurred. They came to teach, Jonas repeats often. But humans were not ready. Humans forgot. Lindqvist consults with other researchers in his network, always carefully, never revealing Jonas's identity or location. He discovers that Brian Forster, who has spent years studying elongated skulls found in Peru and Egypt, has documented cases where the skulls could not have been produced by artificial cranial deformation. The bone structure is different. The cranial capacity is larger. Some skulls appear to be naturally elongated, as if they belonged to a different species entirely. The Edfu building texts, inscriptions found in the Temple of Horus at Edfu, describe beings called the Shemsu Hor, the followers of Horus, who came to Egypt in the time before time. They are described as divine, as builders, as teachers, as beings who were not born of women but who descended from the sky. Graham Hancock, in Fingerprints of the Gods, argues that a highly advanced civilization existed before recorded history, and that its survivors traveled the world, seeding knowledge among less developed peoples. The consistency of pyramid structures across continents, the sophisticated astronomical alignments of ancient monuments, the sudden emergence of complex writing systems all point to an external source of knowledge. Someone taught humanity these things. Someone who possessed understanding far beyond what primitive humans could have developed on their own. Jonas's revelations align with these theories in ways that a 3-year-old child could not possibly fabricate. He describes the Green Man and his companions building structures that would last forever. He describes them pointing at the stars and saying, "That is where we come from." He describes them leaving, promising to return one day when humans were ready to receive them again. He did not die, Jonas says one afternoon, speaking of the Green Man. He went home, back to the stars, but he left his name, so we would remember, so we would know him when he comes back. Lindqvist asks when the Green Man will return. Jonas does not answer. He simply looks up at the sky and smiles. The connection to Orion becomes clearer as Lindqvist investigates further. The ancient Egyptians believed that the souls of the dead traveled to Orion to join Osiris in his celestial kingdom. The alignment of the Giza pyramids mirrors the 3 stars of Orion's belt with remarkable precision. As Robert Bovell demonstrated, the shaft in the Great Pyramid points directly at Orion, as if designed to guide souls on their journey to the stars. Christopher Dunn, in the Giza power plant, proposes that the pyramids were not tombs but machines, devices designed to harness and transmit energy. If the beings Jonas describes were technologically advanced, The pyramids might have served as communication devices, or as beacons, or as something we cannot yet comprehend. The precision of their construction, the acoustic properties of their chambers, the electromagnetic anomalies measured within their structures, all suggest a purpose beyond simple burial. Jonas knows none of this. He has never read these books. He has never heard these theories. He is 3 years old. But what he describes matches, detail by detail, the conclusions that researchers have reached after decades of study. One evening, Lindqvist brings a photograph of the constellation Orion to the Meyer apartment. He shows it to Jonas without comment. The boy's reaction is immediate. His eyes widen. He reaches out and touches the image gently. "Home," he says softly. That is where they live. Where he came from. Where he went back to. Anka watches her son with tears in her eyes. She does not understand what is happening. She does not know how her little boy, her baby who still needs help getting dressed in the morning, knows things that scholars spend lifetimes trying to uncover. But she sees the certainty in his eyes. She hears the conviction in his voice. And she knows, with a mother's intuition, that her son is telling the truth. Or at least, the truth as he remembers it. The symbol remains the central mystery. Lindqvist has consulted with every expert he trusts, shown them photographs of Jonas's drawings without revealing their source. None of them recognize the symbol from any catalogued Egyptian text. None of them have seen anything like it, except for those 6 people who entered the sealed chamber in Abydos in 2019. The chamber itself has become inaccessible. After the initial excavation, Egyptian authorities sealed it again, citing concerns about preservation. No photographs have been released. No papers have been published. The discovery exists only in classified archives and in the memories of those who were there. And now, in the drawings of a 3-year-old boy in Utrecht who has never been to Egypt and has never seen anything related to ancient Egypt. Jonas continues to draw the symbol every day. His parents have stopped trying to understand. They have stopped asking questions. They simply provide him with paper and crayons and watch as their son transcribes something ancient onto the page. Lindqvist believes that Jonas carries memories of a past life, memories of a time when beings from the stars walked the earth and taught humanity the foundations of civilization. He believes that Jonas knew Osiris, perhaps served him, perhaps witnessed events that shaped the course of human history. And he believes that the symbol Jonas draws is a key, a piece of information preserved across millennia in the soul of a child. The pyramid texts speak of the eternal soul, the Bayao, which travels between lives, carrying knowledge and experience from one existence to the next. The Egyptian Book of the Dead describes the journey of the soul through the afterlife, facing judgment before Osiris, the green-skinned god who came from the stars. Perhaps Jonas's soul made that journey. Perhaps it stood before Osiris. Perhaps it learned his true name. And perhaps, after 3,000 years, it has returned to share what it knows. The case of Jonas Meyer raises questions that science cannot easily answer. Mainstream psychology would dismiss his knowledge as coincidence, as fantasy, as something absorbed unconsciously from unknown sources. But this explanation fails to account for the specificity of the symbol. It fails to explain how a child in the Netherlands could draw something that exists only in sealed archives and a hidden tomb. Skeptics might argue that Jonas saw the symbol somewhere and forgot. But where? The symbol has never been published. It has never appeared in any book, documentary, website, or museum exhibit. It exists only in photographs taken by 6 archaeologists in a chamber that has since been sealed. The statistical probability of Jonas encountering this symbol through normal means approaches 0, and yet he draws it every day with perfect accuracy. Jonas Meyer is 4 years old now. He still lives in Utrecht with his parents. He still draws the symbol every day. He still speaks of the green man who came from the stars. His vocabulary has improved, but his message remains the same. He will come back, Jonas says with certainty. They all will, when we are ready, when we remember. The symbol that Jonas draws exists in only 2 places on Earth: in a sealed chamber beneath the sands of Abydos, inscribed on a wall 3,000 years ago, and on the pages of a Dutch child who has never traveled more than 50 kilometers from his home. How did Jonas Meyer learn to draw a symbol that no living person should know? Why does a 3-year-old boy speak of beings from the stars with the conviction of an eyewitness? What happened in that sealed chamber in Abydos that researchers have chosen to hide from the world? If this story has touched something within you, share this video with others who seek answers beyond the conventional explanations. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to join us as we explore these mysteries. Perhaps you too carry memories of lives lived long ago. Perhaps you too know things you cannot explain. The truth is waiting to be remembered. Jonas Meyer sits by his window in Utrecht, watching the night sky. Somewhere among those stars, in the direction of the constellation Orion, his green man waits. The first one, the teacher, the being whose true name exists only in a sealed tomb and in the drawings of a child who somehow, impossibly, remembers. Osiris was not a myth. He was a memory. And memories, it seems, never truly die.